I'd also like to thank the committee for the opportunity to speak with you today. In looking at the interim report and then hearing the comments today, I thought it'd be useful to discuss a particular portion of the vendor community, which is above 50% vendors, and specifically how A50 vendors, above 50% vendors, WIC-only vendors, they're also called, can help overcome the barriers to WIC participation and benefits. I guess I went the wrong way. Too many buttons for my simple mind here.
They may be loading yours too.
Well, they had the first one up there a minute ago. Oh, there we go. Okay, thank you. I'm not technologically gifted. What is an A50 vendor? It's talked a lot about in the WIC community, but specifically from regulations, an A50 vendor is simply a WIC authorized vendor that makes more than 50% of their sales of SNAP eligible food items to WIC. That's what it means. An A50 vendor is a member of a federally required peer group that limits reimbursements to those vendors for specific items to the statewide average of reimbursements of all other vendors for that specific item. The interim report included a summary of literature findings on barriers to WIC, and there was 5 barriers identified. First, embarrassment, negative interaction in stores. A50 vendors, because they rely on WIC participants for their business survival, are the least likely vendor to ever have a participant experience embarrassment, stigma, or anything else. No vendor has a greater incentive to provide a customer service experience than an A50 vendor. There is a discussion of gaps in participant knowledge. Again, an A50 vendor has to provide a superior experience for WIC participants to stay in business. For example, in the stores of the companies I represent, we pre-package fresh fruits and vegetables in 25-cent increments, which makes it very easy for a participant to calculate how much product they can get with a particular cash value voucher. We also work with our participants and also with local agencies to help provide suggestions on cooking and other items as appropriate for individuals' cultural backgrounds. Another barrier identified was a limited selection of WIC foods. Again, an A50 vendor has to carry a wide range of WIC products. This directly addresses that. We carry nearly everything on the approved food list, with the exception of some unique items, and those vary by the location of the stores. And we carry the most popular brands. You simply cannot be in the business of selling to WIC participants if you don't carry Cheerios. It just won't work. We always stock WIC products in allowable forms because that's what our customers want and that's what they deserve. Another barrier identified was maintaining adequate supplies of WIC food. Again, you probably see a little pattern developing here. Because we sell to WIC participants, we have to maintain products in stock. One suggestion to state agencies is whatever time you think is necessary to allow vendors, wholesalers, manufacturers to provide a new product or a new size of product, probably double that and you'll get a better result. Stuff takes a long time. We are having difficulty in some locations right now getting whole wheat pastas in the appropriate sizes. Maintaining food freshness is another barrier identified. A50 vendors, to stay in business, are selling a fairly large volume of product that keeps product fresh. I would add to that minimum stocking requirements should be revised and reviewed periodically. Some products just are not popular. California has a part of their minimum stocking requirement of canned vegetables. Canned vegetables don't sell. We end up discounting them in our stores, and then finally, when they get near their expiration date, simply donating probably half of the stock we carry. So work with the vendor, and they will let you know when things simply do not sell very well. A50 vendors provide this value to WIC, but despite this, federal regulations allow state agencies to refuse to authorize A50 stores. Now, this refusal is based in historic fact that prior to cost containment regulations being put in place, food costs at A50 vendors accelerated rapidly and became a real problem. However, with the implementation of the limitation of reimbursements to the statewide average, this problem has been solved. And as a result, A50s have a lot to offer. For example, in the state of California, which authorizes above 50% vendors, the latest data that I had access to, 35% of WIC food dollars are spent in A50 vendors. And there's a reason for that, and that is because there's a superior shopping experience for WIC participants. Now, as people designing the program and working to make this work the best for your individual state and your state agency, there are things that can be done under current regulations to improve usefulness of above 50% vendors. First of all is the minimum stocking requirement. Most state minimum stocking requirements are designed for a small, relatively small store, perhaps not in a particularly active neighborhood, and as a result have very limited minimum stocking requirements. Some states, four fresh fruits and vegetables. We believe very firmly, and we do this in our stores, that those minimum stocking requirements should be significantly higher. Our stores typically stock at least 10 varieties of each fresh fruits and fresh vegetables. It can be done if you have the sales volume to justify it. Vendor authorization criteria is another area that can be utilized. For example, you could prohibit the stocking of alcohol and tobacco products in A50 vendors. This is a specialized vendor group that is designed specifically for the WIC participant, so I'm not aware of any prohibition of doing something like that as part of that process. I would like to make a couple recommendations, and I'm not sure it's appropriate for the report that you'll be generating, but I'll throw it out there anyway. First of all, we'd really like to see USDA revisit the regulations that allow state agencies to refuse to authorize A50 vendors. A50s cannot solve all the problems of WIC. There are certain unique characteristics that have to exist for an above 50% vendor to be successful. The primary one is a large enough concentration of customers. So if you have remote areas, areas with, that don't have a lot of participants, an A50 vendor can't stay in business in that area. But given how many of local agency clinics are located in food desert areas, when they're a busy clinic, one of our stores is in the area, we typically see a very large sales of fresh fruits and vegetables for cash and SNAP. So it can be part of the solution. It's not the answer to everything, but it can be part of the solution. I'd also like to recommend that all future WIC vendor studies conducted by FNS include state agencies that authorize A50s. Now, I understand that can be problematic at times because typically the states allowing A50s currently are large states, and to get a data set from a large state, it's expensive. But when studies of vendor and participant interaction and these type of things are done without including A50 vendors, which even if you just look at the dollar volume from California is a significant portion of the market, it eliminates any chance that these studies can learn from the experience of above 50% vendors in the states that authorize them and see the value that they can provide. You know, anecdotally, I've talked to a lot of different people in local clinics, other state vendor managers. One of the really nice things about having A50 vendors is when you have participants that are having problems with the shopping experience. I mean, you can't always send staff out to go to a major market and help them do that. You can always direct them to the nearest WIC specialty store, and there they will get the customer service and literally the hand-holding necessary for them to get full value from their food benefit. I'll end it at that, and I look forward to any discussions or questions. But again, the prohibition on A50s was grounded in solid fact. There was a reason for it. That reason doesn't exist anymore. Thank you.